wrestling business or to have anything that I've said taken out of context, because everything that I've said over the last number of weeks have been legitimate points that I've been making about the professional wrestling business. We're at a point now in professional wrestling where people like Randy Orton and John Cena are winning 13 and 14 titles, which is absolutely ridiculous, which there's no need of. And the thing is, you really worn people like John Cena and Randy Orton out the same way that you wore people like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock out. You just took longer to wear people like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock out, because as a young wrestling fan, it felt like forever people like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock were around. It didn't seem to be happening as fast for people like Dwayne Johnson and Steve Williams as it's been happening for John Cena and Randy Orton. And now, at 28 years of age, after having covered professional wrestling for the last 16 years, it just seems like John Cena was here one day and now he's gone. And it's the same thing about people like Randy Orton and Dave Bautista. Dave Bautista, for instance, was here in 2002, 2003, and by 2014, he was more frustrated than he ever had been with his WWE contract and the way things were going for him. So he said, Triple H, I don't want to do this anymore, and he walked out on a live edition of Monday Night Raw on the fall of the program between Evolution and The Shield. At that point, Dave Bautista was supposed to have been champion. Whatever happened to that? And a lot of wrestling fans were wondering the same thing I was as a radio host and columnist. Whatever happened to Dave Bautista coming back and reclaiming the World Heavyweight Championship? Nothing was ever done with it. And as a result, Dave Bautista walked out on his contract. And, it's just frustrating when you see names like that ran over when you expect so much from them, especially when they return for the first time in what felt like forever. And now people like John Cena and Randy Orton are having the same thing done with them. They're up to 13, 14 title reigns. Everything happened for them so quickly, and there's nothing left for them to do as a result of everything happening for them so quickly. So the only thing left for them to do is have one more match and leave, have a retirement match, and come back probably once a year and wrestle in the way of an Undertaker or a Sting who you can't always rely on. Now, if John Cena does announce his retirement from professional wrestling in the way of an AJ, who recently took to Twitter to announce a retirement, which I don't see John Cena doing. If anything, John Cena is going to come out and announce his retirement publicly over a microphone the same way that AJ should have done it. It was very unacceptable and very unprofessionally handled the way AJ took to Twitter to announce her retirement to wrestling fans who had supported her, and they only just initialed her release on WWE.com. What's up with that? I really don't know. They only just posted her release in a statement on both WWE.com's main page and on WWE Divas, their subsite, WWEDivas.com, which is very weird, because if they were going to initial a release for AJ, you thought they would have done it long before now. So I don't see John Cena going the way of AJ and announcing his retirement via Twitter. If anything, he's going to go public and handle his retirement more professionally than what AJ did. But if John Cena does go as far as to announce his retirement, what John Cena will probably do is he'll probably pull Shawn Michaels and people like Booker T's out of his hat, and come out and just AA someone every once in a while. That's usually the direction that a career of a John Cena or a Randy Orton would go. And if Randy Orton was to announce his retirement the same way John Cena is probably going to be doing over the next number of months, he'll probably just pull the same thing that Shawn Michaels does, show up every once in a while and pull an RKO out of the proverbial hat, pull a rabbit out of the proverbial hat, if you would. I'd be more accepting of this if WWE were more clearly on his future, because as of right now, what this is just a prediction that I and a lot of other radio shows and columnists are making about someone like John Cena's future. We're just speculating on what we believe to be what's happening with John Cena, and what we believe right now as radio shows and columnists is that this is it. Time is coming up for John Cena, and we're just, leading up to the inevitable, which seems to be the retirement of John Cena. And this is just a prediction that we are making about professional wrestling. This is not what is accurately happening. And as far as we know, John Cena could remain wrestling for the better part of the next 5 years, because the biggest contract that is handed out to a wrestler now is a minimal of 5 years. And that is a big contract, because usually within 1 year of a wrestler's career, you're paid up to $3 or $4.5 million, which is a significant amount for a wrestler in the way of a John Cena or a Randy Orton at just 35, 36 years of age to be making. It's amazing what people at just 35 years of age in professional wrestling now are making. The numbers on their checks at the end of every wrestling match are unbelievable. And even for the wrestlers who headline shows with the likes of John Cena and Randy Orton are making unbelievable amounts, because what it comes down to, if you want to talk politically about professional wrestling, is either how many main events you have in the way of a John Cena or a Randy Orton, or who you are headlining a show with John Cena and Randy Orton. And if you're on the same show that is headlined by a John Cena or a Randy Orton, it's amazing politically how professional wrestling is orchestrated and how things go down in the professional wrestling business. And take it for someone who went behind a closed door, proverbially, over the last number of years and got a look at what politics really meant in professional wrestling. Hence the reason why Triple H came out on WWE television and shot on me and a number of people who got the chance to go behind that proverbial closed door, which to many is left off limits. But to us, it's unbelievable how politics are really handled. And it's amazing, how politics are more evident now on these websites. And what Triple H should really be blaming for the revealing of politics in professional wrestling is not so much, how much we know about the business. What he should be blaming it on is not the fans. What he should be blaming it on is the actual internet, because now more than ever, we can read backstage news, we can read spoilers for WWE television tapings such as Thursday Night SmackDown, TNA, Ring of Honor. There's more political news posted on these professional wrestling websites and forums than there ever was 10 years ago, because 10 years ago, wrestling news sites weren't as advanced as what they are now in 2015. If you compare professional wrestling news websites 10 years ago to what they are now, we have a significant amount of advancements. So the blame, in my opinion, needs to go to these sites more so than the wrestling fans who are just making assumptions and sharing their predictions on social media sites such as Facebook and on Twitter, which is really what's happening. And because of all these predictions, we're getting all of these rumors. And again, as I said here earlier on in the show, in this podcast, this is just an assumption I'm making. This is just based off a rumor, John Cena leaving the WWE. But I will tell you this. I would love to see John Cena either go or eliminate Rusev's character, because it's the same thing about the U.S. and ISIS and Russia. There's so much political news being talked about by news outlets like CNN and .com websites. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's the same thing about politics with professional wrestling. It's over-publicized. It's in the category of being overrated, and I think it's time to kill off this Rusev character, and John Cena seems to be the perfect one to do that, with how he's become the center of Rusev's attention since WrestleMania, when Rusev challenged him for the U.S. Championship and dropped the U.S. Championship. It's either going to go the way of eliminating Rusev's character for John Cena getting the win in the Russian chain match, the first televised Russian chain match in years, which actually the first Russian chain match was Bruno Sammartino and Ivan Koloff, and another one was Ivan Koloff and Rocky Johnson. So that's how long we've seen a Russian chain match over the last number of years. It's been the better part of the last 30 years since we have seen a Russian chain match, and God knows how long ago it was since the Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff, actually wrestled in a Russian chain match. So that's been a long time. A significant amount of time has passed since then. So I think it would be perfect to eliminate Rusev that way in the Russian chain match by touching all four corners in succession for John Cena, resulting in John Cena then leading up with the AA through a stage or some kind of, apparatus to eliminate Rusev, kind of like how they got rid of Muhammad Hassan all those years ago. Either that or John Cena needs to come out with an indication, a surefire indication towards his future with professional wrestling. Now, I do respect John Cena in a lot of ways. One of the ways that I love to respect John Cena is for all the charitable work that he did outside of the WWE, promoting WWE's Kids Campaign, the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Granting over 300 wishes is an impressive accomplishment for any celebrity. That's more wishes than any celebrity who's done anything with Make-A-Wish. And John Cena has gone above and beyond the requirements of any celebrity or professional athlete to do this for people of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. If anything, John Cena should be Ambassador of the Decade for everything that he's done. It's just the thing that I don't respect about John Cena is just the wrestler John Cena more so than the entertainer John Cena, because the entertainer John Cena is so fun, so unpredictable. There's just something about the wrestler John Cena that really irritates me as a critic of professional wrestling. And that's what you do as a critic of professional wrestling. You criticize the business. You offer an opinion that a lot of people generally don't agree with. That's how you get away with everything. If I wasn't a critic to professional wrestling, to be honest with you, I don't know what I'd be doing with my life. I've just loved criticizing wrestling. And it just so happens in 2015, in this era of professional wrestling, because it's not about Hulk Hogan or Stone Cold Steve Austin anymore. The one that we're criticizing all the time is John Cena, because he's at the forefront of WWE and he's the victim of all of our criticism. And if it wasn't me criticizing John Cena, it would just be somebody else on a video blog on YouTube or for a written column they write weekly on a professional wrestling news website that probably gets 100 viewers a day, because the wrestling news website isn't as popular as some other websites out there. That's the thing about critics of professional wrestling. They jumped over what is going on in professional wrestling at that point in time, and in this era, it's just John Cena who's the victim of all of our criticism. It's not that I don't respect John Cena. It's just something about the wrestler John Cena that really irritates me, and that's why he's been the center of my criticism over the last, I'd say, year and a half to almost 2 years. I have done more than enough video blogs with my opinion, being very direct, very blunt about John Cena. I haven't beat around the proverbial bush when it comes to my opinion on John Cena, and I'll continue not to do that because, in my opinion, there's got to be something done about the same guy and the same 3 or 4 challengers he always has for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship or the U.S. title, whatever division he's on top of or what he's currently doing in the wrestling business. He's always got the same 3 or 4 challengers jockeying for position in main event against John Cena because it's all about who you headline the show with. As I talked about her earlier on in the show. But, I do apologize somewhat for my criticism towards John Cena. But, I mean, who else is there to criticize in the wrestling business? It's either on one side of the coin, on the head side of the coin, you have John Cena to criticize, and on the tail side of the same coin, you have Randy Orton from that aspect. So, it's going back and forth between the two, and either that, you can criticize Daniel Bryan being IC champion rather than WWE World Heavyweight Champion, which he should have been when he returned, be it that he had one of the biggest returns of 2015, that Roman Reigns and the debut of Sting, which is really the only big things that have happened near the halfway point almost of 2015, and that really says a lot. This was supposed to have been one of the most creative and one of the more vigilant years of professional wrestling, one of the more far-fetched, striving years in WWE. And the interesting thing is, WWE say, they thrive without John Cena, just as they thrive without Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I wrote a column on how WWE believed they would thrive without John Cena. Stephanie, at least, I believe they would thrive. And